welcome to another episode of Talking Bollocks. That's right, it's your favourite metal podcast with myself, Howard H. Smith. I am your host of this podcast. I am also lead singer of UK thrash band Acid Rain. New album came out September last year and has gone down pretty damn well, so check that one out, The Age of Entitlement. I'm also a stand-up comedian of 25 years in the business. You can check out some of my comedy on YouTube as the character Keith Platt, also at keithplatt.co.uk. And I runs this here podcast. Welcome back if you're a regular listener, a bollocker, and if it's your first time, welcome. There are hundreds of episodes to get through if you want to sign up. And speaking of which, you should in your podcast player see a live link that says support this podcast. If you tap that, it'll take you straight to my Patreon page where you can sign up for $5 a month, get this podcast early, get loads of exclusive access, which you'll be hearing about later, and lots of behind the scenes stuff as well. It's just $5 a month. Come and join me, patreon.com/Howard H. Smith, or just tap the support this podcast link in the podcast description in your player, unless you're on Spotify, because they don't allow live links. Boo to them. So today is a special. It is a Quadra special, and because it's a pretty special album, let's be honest. Now, these interviews, and I say interviews because this one is with Derrick, and then I'll be following up again in a couple of weeks with Andreas, and then a couple of weeks after that it will be Jens Bogren, who was the producer of the album. So these took place in and around March of this year, and we've just been waiting to get the right time to put these out for everybody to get them into your ears, and now is indeed the right time. So I don't want to make this all about me. I want to make it all about Sepultura, their amazing album, and exactly what they've got to talk about. I remember this conversation very, very well. Derrick and I had a really good time. He was very generous with his time, stayed behind to answer fan questions, which you will be getting in this episode as well. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I did doing it. Here is Derrick and I having a chat back in March.
Hello.
Hello there, Derrick.
Can you hear me, Howard?
I can hear you clear as a bell. You're coming through beautifully.
Ah, great, fantastic.
I know the technology works. We can get on with it now.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes
yeah. Yeah. It's especially at the moment as well, with everybody, with everybody using similar apps and everyone trying to communicate at the same time. It's gets a bit hairy at times. Oh,
absolutely. So what's going on?
Well, do you know what? Not a lot. Filming stupid lockdown videos inspired by your isolation video.
Oh, right on.
Basically it's us just being idiots. We have a slightly different, Acid Rain has a slightly different image to Sepultura, so we just acted like idiots, and
it looked like a lot of fun. I was able to watch a bit of it, so it looked like a lot of fun.
Oh, cool, man! Thank you. Yeah, no, it was. Well, we literally had nothing else to do, so it was. It had to be done. Have I just noticed? You guys are doing quite a few of these isolation videos now, aren't you? You're getting the masters at it.
The whole idea is really to have every Wednesday, Sepultura Wednesday. So we call it Sepulquarta. Quarta-feira is Wednesday in Portuguese. So Quadra is 4, and that's the whole thing surrounding the new album is 4. The number 4 members in the band, the 4 horsemen, the significance of numbers, and 4 being a very powerful number. So we're trying to really play off of that and give content for the fans of what's going on with us and keep them updated. We had a whole tour plan for the world, and we had, a new album release. So we want to keep that connection still with fans, even though it's really difficult at times, especially these times. So, it's something completely new for us, but we want to keep doing this every Wednesday and make it consistent until things are different.
Well, that's really cool as well, because it gives you a focus on it gives you a day to focus, and you can spend the rest of the week kind of working towards that as well, and
Exactly.
putting it together. So it gives you a focus, doesn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, honestly, when this was all going down, it was the last place I wanted to be is in front of my computer and to be doing all this stuff like online. I was like, we spent so much of this time online and doing all this stuff before this pandemic was going on. So it's just like, well, this is torture to me to when it first started to go back into it, to go more into sitting around in front of a computer screen, in front of a TV screen, just so many screens. I'm like, I'm losing my mind. But then I started to turn a lot of those things off in certain periods of the day and get to a certain type of discipline, because you can go crazy from that lack of discipline, I feel, and becoming, really disarrayed with so many things that are going on, especially with many thoughts that are coming into your mind from that idle position of sitting around at home all day. So started developing a routine and changing it every now and then, and getting more focused and centered with the situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It really is. And I did see that Sepultura Wednesdays article, and when you started speaking about it, I kind of it sprung back into my mind, and it's a great idea. It really is. I mean, I'm in a similar position ourselves. We've had to cancel a tour. First album for 29 years, and we can't tour it. Serves us right for waiting for goddamn long, doesn't it? Really. And no one could accuse you guys of sitting on your laurels. I mean, the productivity level is just never seems to waver with you guys. And the new album, I've got to say, that for me is that's your best work.
Thank you.
Oh man, without doubt, for me it is. For me, it sounds like it's, and this is genuinely made as a compliment. It sounds like it's kind of, I would put it between Chaos AD and Roots. It kind of sits.
That's a big compliment.
Good. But that's where it sits for me. The sound, and look, one singer to another. Man, you sound fucking awesome on this. You really do.
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate that.
Oh, mate, honestly.
I think a goal for, most artists is to really keep willing, to evolve, to really grow. And I felt this is something that's always been happening with Sepultura, and it's a good feeling, to really to be able to look back and at times and to realize that that every element, every step that was being taken was a process in order to advance and to evolve as a musician. I thought that we're really able to do that, over time, and with this album, it really, rings through.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's, you're everybody everyone's killing it, everyone's crushing it. But the concept, the whole concept holds together, the production, Jens, I really want to hear what it was like working with Jens, actually, because he mastered our album, and we kind of I kind of vaguely know him because obviously he mastered our album, but didn't work with him in person. What was he like to work with?
30 devices going off at the same time.
Joe, I was sat here and I was thinking it serves us both right for sitting here going, as soon as that call started, it was like, the technology works, everything's fine. And that was that mistake right out the gate. So, sorry, where were we? We were talking about. So yes, what was it like working with Jens?
Yeah, Jens. I mean, his work ethics are commendable. It's somebody that really believes in what they're doing, and this is such a great admiration to work with somebody that has these, aspires to be the best that he can at what he's doing. So I believe that, I could really feel that he was a part of the band and paying attention to the slightest details I didn't even recognize at certain phases, from him listening to the demos all the way to arriving in Sweden and working with them. He had like an actual plan in mind, and he wasn't afraid to state his opinions about producing the album, and these are like qualities that really drew me to Jens and worked really well with the band, of being able to push and pull everything out of us.
And that's the key to any great producer, isn't it? I mean, being able to
that honesty, is really, really important. You're not there immediately to make friends, honestly. You're there to have somebody that's like, hey, this is what I feel you need to do. This is my opinion. I've worked this many years, and to be able to trust that person, and then you become friends. So I think after our first time recording with them, we became friends after the recording process, and we became better friends. So it was extremely comfortable to come back to Sweden and work with them again, with an album that was different from the last that we worked on, but it was a continuation of, our friendship. And there were a lot of elements that went into working with the Ends, and this is what made it so very special.
Yeah, I mean, from from our end, our producer Jace was like, couldn't believe Jens's approach to mastering and how he does it, and he said it's just so unique. It's not like anything I've ever heard or seen before. And he really wants his hands on every aspect of the creation. He went from producing. He had to be there for mixing. He had to do the math. He had to do everything. Which was great. Yeah, I mean, he only. I say only, but he only mastered our album. But boy, it was like the cherry on the cake. I couldn't believe what he did with it.
He has a great ear. This is something that's extremely important as a producer, is to have a phenomenal ear. And he doesn't burn himself out, which I think is another admirable quality. He has time for the studio, then he has time for his family. Then, I think he's able to balance those times very well, creating that, ability to hear so well, what's going on.
Yeah, and it sounds like as you were saying, it's for that short period of time, he's a member of the band, because it's as important to him that everything is right and is the way it should be as it is to everyone else in the band.
I agree. I mean, 100%. He definitely takes on that role, and it's welcome. It's important to have, like I said, this trust issue is something that's very important, to be able to trust somebody with something that's very personal to you, to open up and allow them to come in. And this is something that it takes time, to build that type of relationship, but it was something that happened, between us.
Well, especially when it's something like you said, it's very sensitive, and you've all worked on creating the best thing that you can, and
right, not even, and a lot of it is coming out of your head. It's not, you have to physically put it on something. You have to physically lay the tracks down of what you're thinking. That's going, of how you're hearing it.
Yeah.
So you're, and it's not even the full picture of what you're creating. It's just I'm a piece of something that's bigger than myself, because there's Andreas, there's Eloy, there's Paulo, and there's Jens, their interpretations of the music, their ideas, so it's a mixture of those things, and so it becomes something that you never imagined, which is something very beautiful. You have an idea, you have your idea, you put your input in, then it comes out to be something massive. So there's a beauty behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do you is the album what you imagine when you were walking in the studio? Right? Did you walk out of the album with? Did you walk out of the studio with the album that you thought you were going to make when you walked in the studio?
Wow, absolutely not. But in a way, no. I mean, it was really shocking leaving the studio. It was such an immense feeling of accomplishment. But I never could imagine the album going that way. But I had an idea that I wanted to be great. Of course, you want every album to be great, and you have a projection of where it can go. But it definitely exceeded the ideas that I had. Without a doubt.
And that's awesome. I mean, a typical question. Apologies because you'll have had this a million times. But did you, when you finished the album, did you think right? We've got something special here. I think we've really we've topped ourselves this time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was the feeling. I think all around. I guess as the process was going on and the more we were getting into it, being at the studio, because, I mean, a lot of the album, of course, was written before we went in, but being able to hear it on that level of a great studio, great sound, everything because we were doing demos before, so everything's kind of like cluttered together, but hearing everything, every little detail that Eloy is doing, hearing certain riffs very clearly in a way, certain guitars, I'm like, oh shit, this is really coming together, so you could feel the momentum building. You just get on that wave, I was like lyrically, I was in preparation, a lot of us had prepared for this because we knew what we were going to get into, and that helped a lot. Being able to go over the rhythm of vocally of where I wanted to place things was all done way ahead of time, and a lot of it in my head just from walking around listening to the music for months.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, I think preparation is awesome, but but you've also got to be prepared to be challenged, haven't you? For somebody to turn around and go, do you know what? I think you can do better than that. Point.
That's a really good point. You have, the preparation that's, you're doing, you're in your head, your mindset, and then you get together again. This collaboration is something I've always loved about being a musician, is being able to collaborate with other artists.
Yeah.
And to be open to that, to be able to even take that positive criticism and go further, and so it's important to be around people that are able to give you this positive criticism that's actually helpful. Explain why this is not good. Give me a reason why you don't like that Jens. I'd always say that to Jens and be like, why don't you like that take? That was amazing. And then he'll be able to explain, the reason I don't like that take is because you're taking a breath there. I feel you can do it much better.
Yeah.
I've heard you do much better. Pointing out things, not just saying it and letting it go. So I think, that preparation is great, but there again, challenging yourself, because that's when it really counts. It's just like, okay, now we're here. This is your moment, and I believe finding those moments are magical in the studio, but it's necessary. To be able to expand while you're there. To be like, okay, let's go further than the thought that I had before. 4 months ago when in the demo, I want to do something.
Yeah.
The demo's great, because you can get into this whole, man, but the demo sounded so good because it's so.
Yeah, that classic. Yeah, there's always somebody in the band who's fucking hung up on the fucking demo.
Yeah. And even producers, you can be like, yeah, it did sound great there, like very natural, very just the moment. And but you got it, it can be heartbreaking. You need to be able to step away from that. You're like, okay, it's not the demo anymore.
Yeah.
It's beyond. So.
Well, also, it's like the old phrase when they're making movies, isn't it? Sometimes you've got to kill your darlings, And
right.
I mean, my favourite line of lyrics on our entire album, I had to drop what I'd done wasn't working. Had to switch it round and had to drop it. But it's just like, if someone's trying to fix something, I've got no problem with that. But if they're trying for the 5th time, it's fucking broken.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, to get to that move on phase, it's not pleasant, but there are those times where it's better to move on, or it's even better maybe to take a break. And I hate hearing that.
Oh,
because for
yeah.
me it feels like a feeling of failure. You're like, I can't believe I let myself down, blah blah blah. But I realize this happens, especially as a singer. Your instrument is very fragile and at the same time very powerful, and it's not the same as other instruments. It's inside your body.
Absolutely.
So it can be, certain days that are better than others, of course. And I actually realized this, like I wasn't putting so much pressure on myself when I started watching documentaries with Quincy Jones and the artists that he'd worked with, and he'd be like, hey, Whitney, take a break. Today's not your day. I was like, damn, Whitney Houston had a day. Or, like Michael Take It Easy, like each artist has certain, like you should just start fresh.
Well, do you know what? We're all human beings. We're all fallible, and it's a really good point you make as well. It's like, if guitarist, well, this will happen. Your guitarist is playing his guitar, something breaks, someone chucks him another guitar. Well, you can't do that if you're a singer. It's like no operations, months of cancellations.
Yeah, it's really tricky, and it's also can become very psychological. It's in your head. I mean, that's why you have like a lot of kids, and they're like, hey, what? It's not many people that I know that are like, I want to be a singer. Believe it or not, they're like, I know a lot of people like, I would love to sing. I'd love to be, the singer of a band, but a front person, a singer, and a band, it's very, very, very difficult. And I feel that there's a lot. I always feel that I run into people that are like, I want to be a drummer, I want to be a guitarist. I don't run into so many people who want to be a singer because you have to really put yourself out there in a way.
Yeah.
I think more so than the other musicians because it's coming from your body, like literally from the inside of you projecting that.
Absolutely, dude. Well, look, when my band had 25 years off, I spent 25 years, well, I still do, stand-up comedy. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow, it's kind of a whole nother realm of, putting yourself out there.
I know, Derek, but think about it. No other members of the band. No other opinions, no other people you've got to run things by. You can just do it.
It's true.
It's like, my agent gives me a call and says, my agent gives me a call and says, do you want to do a gig? I say, where is it? How much? What date? Fine, do it. No phone calls around everybody. Has anyone got a holiday? Is anyone on holiday there? Is it, it's real freedom. But again, there's always a price to pay. And that is when you come off stage, there's no one to celebrate with.
Oh yeah.
There's just other comedians who don't want to fucking hear it, frankly.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I know, I do know what you mean, but also as when you were saying about voice and being very personal, obviously, I know I've spoken to producers in the past, and they've said it's recording with a vocalist is you've got to be very sensitive of the fact that you're not telling a guitarist that he's like played that wrong or his fingers. You're talking to somebody about a part of their body. This sound is coming out of them. They're not making this with an instrument, and it makes it that much more personal, and it makes it that much more it makes it that much harder to deal with as a as a producer.
It's a very temperamental instrument too. I mean, you can have like a cold day, a warm day, and it can change up. I mean, dramatically, and a lot of it can be psychological, and so to really set that person at ease, or if you are a singer, to put yourself at ease, or practices you have to really, it's certain things you have to really know before going into the studio, and it helps to be able to be focused and to be relaxed as much as possible.
Yeah.
Going into the studio.
Yeah.
Physically and mentally. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm when I was doing doing our album, because I always feel like a ton of pressure, because invariably, you're one of, if not the last person to be laying down your tracks. Everyone else has done theirs, and
Yeah.
and they say things like, "Oh, time for you to sprinkle some magic on this now," and you just think, "Oh, fuck off! I've got enough pressure in my own head."
Yeah, no. It's like they're all done. They're like, "Don't fuck this up."
That even better. Brilliant. Yeah. You better be brilliant or don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
But I have to say, as much as I do really love collaborating, I think part of it for me is I'm getting to share the weight. I'm getting to spread the weight with the guy that I'm working with. Because it's kind of, whilst we're recording vocals, it's the two of us, and we're knocking stuff backwards and forwards, and we're working as a team, and that kind of spreads the load a little bit.
Definitely, I agree. I mean, and it depends on the type of person the musician is. There are solo artists that are better at just being solo. They're just it makes sense. And then there's other people that, when they're in a band, then or when they're connected with other people, then that's when they really shine.
Yeah. Now, and I think it is it is strange, because the dynamic within a band is just like, as I'm always saying to my guys, look, and you guys have obviously toured extensively and spent a lot more time in each other's companies than me and my guys, but I'm always keen to say, look, every day the dynamic in the band is different. Every day, every hour.
This is true, right? And every day is different. Every show is different. People always ask that question: do you ever get tired of playing the same songs? I'm like, no. The song is never really the same. Honestly, playing in a different venue, different crowd, different year, different feeling. Everything around it is never the same. It's going to be different, and so I'm never entirely bored of playing the same song.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's why I always say about when you get that question, which is like, "What's your favorite song to play live?" And it's like, you say a song, you say a song, and they say, "Oh, but I thought it was so and so," and it's like, well, A, why are you asking me a question you knew the answer to, and B. It's not that anymore. I'm allowed to change my mind. Also, it depends what fucking day it is. Last night, it might have been something different.
It's true. I mean, a lot of people forget the fact that everyone and everything on this planet is consistently changing every day, every second. Molecules, even getting down to science, absolutely, that's the quintessential of life on this earth is change. So it's obvious to me that you're going to have an opinion that's different for a song, because everything is changing. It's like your mind is changing, your memory is changing of certain events. You may think of the past in a certain way, but it's already changed. It's not the same way that it was then, because of that change that's happening. It's inevitable. So I find it a really simple question, where it's just like, what's your favorite, your favorite song now? I thought it was this, and it's always going to be changing. People ask that about the band. Oh, why does it change here? I mean, for us, it's quintessential to change. I think before I was in the band, Sepultura had that in the DNA to want to change, to want to evolve, to want to grow, to move into a different direction, not repeat ourselves, not to do the same things that we've done before, just because that wouldn't be the essence of what the band is, and we wouldn't be where we are now if we were to just sit idle and to do the same things and over again, or try to repeat ourselves, which is impossible.
Yeah, exactly. But again, I think, we're going to stray into some dodgy waters here, but I'm going to go for it anyway. I felt that is what you were talking about, and for me, it was taken out of context by somebody in Max's camp, and
right.
and you got kind of like dragged into the sunlight and given a kicking. And I was like, Jesus, I really didn't think he was. I didn't think it was you.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was the interpretation of whoever was reading or listening to whatever interview I did, and they got the completely wrong impression. But that's okay. That happens all the time. And so that's why I didn't dive into a response, because I was like, well, obviously it's not what I meant. I mean, I'm not going to go and try to defend it. So
yeah, exactly. The irony being that the response accused you of needing to drum up publicity for the album, and the response drummed up publicity for the album.
I know, it's hilarious at times, like what goes on in this scene.
Well, yeah, absolutely, but it's the same everywhere, isn't it? It's like what people bring to art is gonna change it because of who they are. So, you can go and see a movie and you can take all of your expectations with you, and that could ruin the movie for you, or it could make the movie
Absolutely.
for you. It's about what you bring to it.
Right.
And I think,
you're so right.
That was just one of those instances where it was kind of like, oh, right, okay, well, you've brought that to the party. That's not what it meant, but,
Exactly. I mean, there are a lot of times that people are just, joining a band, replacing a person, especially the front person, is one of the most difficult things, like switches or changes that can happen in a band. Yeah. And I wasn't expecting anything to happen overnight. I knew it would take years for people to get past the actual change and start to really listen to what's happening in that moment. So I felt that we had to work on that. We had to earn that. I think the band itself had spent so many years getting to a position where they earned the level of respect that they got. So I felt the same way. We had a new combination of people in the band. I felt that we had we're learning this respect again, and it's taken us to where we're at now, where now people can look back and say like, oh, I see here, oh man, this was better, oh, this got better, or some people are like, this is my favorite, and realize everyone has their own opinions. But for me personally, I feel fantastic at the position that we're at. It's a complete battle and struggle, but it's something that I love doing. So there's no negativity drawn from that, being a battle and the struggle. It was something that was really important and needed in order to make it very real and very truthful, the music. So.
Yeah, and I mean, 23 years in Sepultura now. I mean, that's it's kind of phenomenal because I remember at the time, nobody wanting to try and fill Max's shoes, and
right.
and you came out of nowhere, man. I don't I'll be completely honest. I don't normally do any research, but I did with you because I know I remember back in the day. I remember your introduction into the band, and there was kind of like almost like a very brief sort of biog on you. So I thought I'd just like dig around a bit, and it seemed like you were just kind of just sort of bouncing from project to project, demo to demo, maybe an album here or an album there, but always with kind of people who were names or had played in named bands, and you seemed like you were really kind of one of those guys who was on the edge of doing something. And then this just seemed to come along at the right time, certainly from an outsider's point of view. I mean, how did it feel at the time?
At the time, it was really unbelievable because I hadn't met anybody that in that similar situation. I'd only seen from the outside, being a fan, for example, of Metallica, and then they got Jason Newsted, and I was like, oh my God, how's this guy going to fill Cliff Burton's shoes? I don't think this is going to happen, and it just, evolved. It was evolving, and that was from an outside point of view. I was like, oh, that looks really amazing and beautiful, how their story came together. But I was I was really unsure. I didn't have that much information as far as I wasn't a fanatical Sepultura fan, so maybe that helped. I had a couple albums, and I admired their work. I didn't even know when I joined the band, like if I saw them on the street, like who's who, like what's his, like it was. I wasn't like super fan. I'm not gonna lie about that. I just admired, the album. Like Arise was the first album that I purchased, the cassette tape actually, and then after that, I loved Chaos AD and then Roots, and then I started listening to the older stuff. But I didn't realize probably how big the situation was, which is good because it started to dawn on me when I went to Brazil, and then I was like, okay, this is reality really setting in, and seeing how people reacted to them, just walking on the street. The international market, I didn't realize how big it was, how big they were. It was still the dawn before everyone had a computer.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really, I didn't have the internet to be like, oh my God, I see their numbers here and how massive they are. For me, there are still people calling it Sepultura, and they're like, oh, I love the Sepultura band,
Yeah, man, yeah.
So it was like really like a disconnect as far as like knowing how massive they were, and so that slowly started to dawn upon me. It was like, hey, the first show you're going to do is going to be over 20,000 people, blah, blah, blah. This person's coming there to the show. Mike Patton from Faith No More, Jason's going to fly down. And then, these things start building up. I was like, oh my God, this is massive. This is getting bigger and bigger. And, so I kind of went with that tidal wave that was happening. It was the reason. I was really happy about it because I worked so hard to get to a position of being with the band that was being taken seriously and being heard. So that was the whole point of being, like an artist for me. I was like, oh my God, this is my moment. I've been working for this for so long to be in a position where people are going to really listen to the music that I'm doing within a group. And so I can't fuck this up. So I've been waiting for it. I was like, let's do it. Okay, we're going to tour for 2 months, 3 months straight. Okay, let's do it. We're going to go, okay, let's do it. I was really open to anything. So it was a fantastic feeling of just like not knowing what's going to happen next, not being concerned with that, and just going full forward,
it sounds like a little bit of the kind of that sort of the arrogance of youth as well, just like fucking I'm just gonna have this.
This is a great point. Yes, because that attitude of youth where it's like I don't give a fuck. Let's just go for it.
Dude, you get offered that job now. You spend 2 days thinking about how it could all go wrong, and then you turn it down.
Yeah, you're so right. It's like to be in that mindset of like openness and open-mindedness as a youth is so inspiring, and so it's something that I feel that most adults can, that's a part of their youth that they can actually should bring along. It's something very important to have that. Of course, you become wary of certain situations and things like that, and becoming educated about certain situations that would be better for you or not, but sometimes you overthink things. But it was very simple, it was like, here is a band that's, has a lot of success, very serious musicians and very talented musicians, and it's like, do you want to play with them? Do you want to be around that scene? It's like, yes, sign me up. I do. And it was, I honestly would probably do the same today. I try to keep that youthful openness, around me, to a certain degree.
Yeah, well, I'm very much the same, and I'm always saying, whenever people use, at my age, I can't, and I always say, look, you don't use age. Age is not an excuse to not do something. Age is the reason to do it.
Absolutely. That's. Wow, I'm going to have to use that. It totally makes sense.
Yeah. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. If you say that's just a mindset. I know age is not a number, because when I jump up in the air and land, it hurts now. It never used to. So it's not just a fucking number, right? But you can let it eat away at you, but then again, you know what? We've all got those friends who've been old for fucking years.
Oh yeah, you definitely do. Yeah. I mean, it's important to really step out of the box. I say this all the time. It's something that's difficult for everyone. For myself. For example, I to look at certain situations where it's like, you know what, you may not be seeing it because you're a part of it, but when you have certain people around you who are very positive and good in your life, they can point out certain things that you may not see. There were people that were around me that were like, hey, I can't believe that you're like massive size. You work out, you stay in shape, and you're vegan. You have a plant-based diet for over 20-something years. It's like, man, you should talk about that and maybe even have a show, like a TV show. And then I thought about it, and they're like, I was like, I definitely don't want to be a host, blah blah blah. And then I was like, you know what? Why not? And so I developed an idea called Highway to Health, and it's a TV show with me and the co-host, and her name is Tanya O'Callahan. She's also a musician. She's from Ireland, born in Ireland, and she lives in LA, and so she's also plant-based lifestyle. And we got together and created the show Highway to Health, and it's basically talking about being musicians, being on the road, seeing how the changes have been happening throughout the years with plant-based food, with sustainability of the planet, not only food, but just in general, people being aware of what's going on around them and how to make things better, and the changes that have radically been happening. And so, and to break stereotypes, this was an idea also of breaking the stereotypes that exist around so many different things in our lives that people are bombarded with on TV. And I've seen so much of this crap on TV and watching these shows. I'm like, I never want to watch that show. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Why isn't there better content? And that also is a reason for me to want to do this program, Highway to Health, is because the content, I wanted to have better content from what I've been seeing. Those shows that are consistently showing people in amazing places around the world traveling, which is great, but places I would never be able to afford, things I would never eat, things that are very unhealthy, like elaborate, display of just like, oh yeah, we're going to cut this open here, and just, really on the level of just like arrogance and just like, it just wasn't really me. It wasn't really speaking to me, and I felt that there was a lot of people out there that felt the same way. And so I wanted to create this type of show where it's not only dealing with plant-based people. The idea of the show is to actually get people who aren't into the show.
Yeah.
And so then we're not preaching to people. We have guests that aren't vegans or vegetarians. We have people on the show who eat meat. That's what the show is geared towards. People just to change their mind, maybe change one meal in a day. Maybe it will end up being one day they're not eating meat. To slowly take those steps to realize that there's other things out there. There's other things that are happening in order to improve the planet, to educate people on certain things, but in a fun way. And so that's what this program was about. And we're able to really raise awareness of what's happening. And I think it's a really good approach, not to go in the preachy way of trying to get people to do certain things, twist their arm, and to really just show the reality of the situations of going on. Like, I have a lot of friends that eat meat and they're open to changing their diet. And that's a start, to really show like that's commendable. You have one day of maybe that, or maybe one day you're thinking about plasticking, or one day, just because a lot of people have a disconnect with any of this, and they have no idea how this is important. But we're going to be able to show that to them on this program, and it's going really well. We're able to the more people we talk about it, and the more people we're able to interview, and hopefully it will get bigger and bigger.
So what? How would people see this program? What is it on regular TV, the internet, or how do people get to it?
So where we're at right now, the process is that we were able, before this pandemic was happening, we're able to collect quite a bit of material, enough for at least a season for this program. So our idea is that we have everything. We're editing everything down ourselves. We have a production team that are out of Dublin and that we work with. And so our plan is to get all set up and ready, and then we're going to sell this to a network.
Right. Okay. Cool.
And so we wanted to have everything done before going to a network, because we already tried the approach of having everything on a script, on paper, and they don't visually. They weren't really seeing it. You know, they were able to, like, it's a great idea. There are no shows like this, but they, you know, we really wanted to have them visually see it, and so we did everything ourselves. You know, we traveled, we interviewed different celebrities and people that we knew that were keen to do it. We have a variety of guests, from the CEO of Ford Motors of South America to a UFC fighter from Brazil. You know, and the guy that's the CEO of Ford Motors South America, he's Irish. You know, there's a connect with everything, and it has to do with either music that me, Tanya, and my co-hosts, and I have been involved with. It's all connected with music. Somehow we know these people in a weird way, but it's a variety of different people, and so the idea is to sell it to a network, and then create a second season. We'll have time to do that because we've already recorded so much material now, but hopefully, you know, we have all the platforms, social media, of like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and we're growing that. But once it's sold, we'll be able to start promotion of how to watch it, where to watch it, and but it's coming very soon. So we're in that process right now.
Oh, that is awesome, and really kind of just kind of trailblazing, I guess. And also, look, I totally recognise what you've done there as well. What you've done is you've recorded the album, and you're going to shop the album. That way, no label gets to fucking mess with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is something that we didn't want them, screwing up with the vision that we had of the actual show. So it's like, this is it. It's done. You know, there's not, you know, you can't, with the material that you have, you know, it'd be really hard for you to screw it up. So let's do it ourselves. You know, it makes it much easier also for it to be sold, because honestly, you know, these people, you know, a lot of them are just really into money and numbers. Yeah. And, we're the artists, and we're creating this vision. So it's up to us to really, to do our best. And even with the limited amount of funding, you know, this is something that was very interesting, that we had to go out and get that money from people who were really advocates in creating a better planet. And so they were, you know, if you're able to communicate what it is that you want to produce, you can get people that are involved to donate even. And so we're able to get those donations that helped so much, and to getting the proper equipment, being able to provide for the tickets and for the minimal of creating something that looks good, you know, because we just didn't want to do it half-assed. We wanted to look, you know, very professional in the eye of anyone watching it. So, like I said, it's not a show that's primarily for plant-based people or vegans, or, you know, and it's a show for everyone, but primarily it's for people who aren't, you know, just so it's just like they have a lot of questions. A lot of friends, a lot of people ask me, like, how about this? What about shopping? What about, you know, the cost of this? How do you make this? Well, you know, how do you get your protein? You know, how is it? thought about all those different questions, and I was like, I'm going to ask those questions as if I were those people, like a meat eater. Like, I want to, go at every direction. And so I think it will be really a fascinating show for everyone, not just plant-based people.
That's awesome. That's all, and it's great that you have this this potential. Well, you have this passion, but this potential other career and whole other life outside of the band as well.
Oh yeah, I think it actually helps. It's really, we're going to be able to. It's great to be able to step aside a little bit from music and to do other things, other projects. But it's also still connected in many ways because we're going to be able to show backstage, be able to show catering, show the lifestyle of people on the road and how you're able to eat and to eat well, how you're able to stay healthy, just to really show the vision of what's actually happening, to break, again, those stereotypes. It's like everyone's drinking, everyone's getting fucked up. And I was like, no, those days have changed. There are people that still do that, but there's a lot less because there's a lot more at stake. There's people's health. They have families. They want to keep the business going. So you have to live well, in order for that to succeed and survive. So.
Well, you know what? Ultimately, in our younger days, we were mixing metal with punk and with hardcore, and now we get a little bit older. We're mixing, some veganism and TV with our band. It's just
right. Prune juice and
it's the
yoga mat. Before a show.
yeah, man. It's the logical conclusion. It's the natural progression. But it's all about staying healthy, and as we were talking about earlier, when you are a vocalist, and I totally agree with the stuff you were saying about the psychology and it getting in your head. That you've got to stay healthy. You've got to be on it. You really have.
Yeah. If you want to really be able to excel, especially a live performance, that's where. For us, it's extremely important to be able to perform live. That's our passion is to be on stage. Yeah. And in order to be on stage, it feels good to be healthy on stage. It does not feel good. You won't continue so long if you're getting fucked up all the time. Yeah. That will die very quickly.
Absolutely. And that whole lifestyle just kind of seems really sort of dated now. It's like
I believe so. Yeah, it completely played.
Yeah, and then you've only got to watch The Dirt on Netflix and go like, yeah, God, that does not actually look like fun.
Right?
Yeah,
it's not being able to remember certain details of the past and just getting completely shit-faced every day. No, it's not fun. It definitely all catches up.
Yeah, exactly. Waking up in the morning and trying to remember whether it was your wife or your girlfriend you punched in the face.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah. Wow.
No, I'll give that.
Oh, those days.
The good old days, I believe they're called. The good old days when you could actually play live shows. They were fun, weren't they? But it's funny when you're talking about a crowd and live audience as well. I've been approached by a few promoters who are doing comedy shows online, and I was just like, dude, I'm sorry, but I have no interest in doing that whatsoever. I love doing stand-up. I love doing comedy. But you know what? What I love is communicating it with my audience and getting that laughter back, and it's all about what's going on in the room. And stand up in my front room in front of a camera I'm just recording my own mental illness.
It's like you're doing a personal diary.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to do a gig to a camera to a load of people who are sat in their homes.
I feel the same way. I don't want to do that. I didn't get into music to do that. It's the most heartbreaking thing realizing that once this pandemic started that I wouldn't be able to do the thing that I love so much, which is perform in front of people.
Yeah.
It's live audience, it's just, there's nothing like it. And I agree, that energy you get with being in that room, it's it can't be replaced by a computer,
Absolutely. And that to that point, you speak to anybody who's been to a gig and then it's absolutely blown them away, and then they try and find YouTube videos of the gig and go, yeah, it's not the same, is it? It's like, well, duh.
It'll never be the same. It's definitely not. I mean, that feeling of being around other people, there is an energy level, humanity. I mean, humans need to be around other people. That's how we survive from birth. We need human contact. And being at a show is definitely a lot of contact. It's a lot visually, physically, smells and sound. I mean, it's hitting all the senses.
Yeah.
And it makes it stand so well in your mind. And it's so important, especially as an artist and actually as a fan. It's like I miss that. It's never going to be the same watching a concert online and being in front, of a stage. There's no comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And the thing is, as well, is it's an unknown amount of time until we're going to get to do that again, because it's just, depending on the size of events, we need a vaccine, because
right.
Big gigs, these big arenas, Tommy Lee going on about, we still want to make this tour happen. It ain't happening, dude. You're not playing fucking arenas in June. Are you mad?
No. Arenas in June, and this is that's a fantasy. It's everything has changed now, and so that adaptation is something that has to set in. I realize now that we're going to have to do things differently. And so doing Sepulquarta is a way of doing things differently. And, it's an adjustment. It's not adjustment that I want to do, but I'm willing to do it because I definitely want to stay connected. And there is a level of being this level of connection through the digital world. Of course, I can't deny that. Telephones and everything that existed, that's been created, it's great. I wouldn't want to change that, but as long as I know it's temporary, that's okay.
Yeah, man. How long it's going to be, we don't know, but yeah, I totally agree. And do you know what? Bringing it back to Sepultura Wednesday is a nice way to wrap it up, although don't go anywhere because I've got some fan questions for you. But it's a nice way to wrap it up because I got an email from someone today, and I am interviewing them next week, and then basically it's Andreas. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the two of you onto basically it'll be a Sepultura special. And the podcast comes out on a Friday, but if you just want to package it up with all of your other content and just stick it out somewhere on a Wednesday, then I'll move it to a Wednesday.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
That'd be cool, man. That'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well. Look. For now, don't go anywhere. But thank you very much for your time. That is the main interview over. I'm going to do some fan questions now. But Derrick, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
And normally that is where the podcast would end, because the fan questions are for patrons, subscribers, as I mentioned earlier about Patreon and the support podcast link in the description of the podcast. And so normally they would get this next section as their own podcast to hear their own questions answered. So that's the kind of thing that you can do. If you sign up at Patreon, please feel free to join us over there, and you can ask questions of your favourite guests. Had everybody on, from Scotty and to Max Cavallera to Fish from Marillion, you name it. They've all been on. So anyway, I am now going to deliver you the Patreon questions. Also, at the beginning of the interview with Derrick there, I was talking about the lockdown video that my band did, that Derrick had seen, and I'm going to put a link to that in the podcaster's description as well, so you can click on that and go straight to that video and check it out if you want. So this is not normally what you'd hear. This would normally be just for the patrons, but because it is a special, you get to hear the fan questions as well.
Why wouldn't I be?
Yeah, absolutely. That was strangely James Bond, actually.
Yeah, I was trying my best.
Right. Well, look, your best is indeed good enough. So, here we go. Right. Popular man.
The question is, which James Bond, though?
Oh, yeah.
Sean Connery.
Well, yeah. I mean, I because there was talk of Idris Elba being the next James Bond, and that didn't happen.
That's right.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I'm a bit of a Daniel Craig groupie, but you know.
Right. All right. It's okay. There's no shame in that.
Right. Here we go. Right. First question is from Stuart Chalmers. Stuart says, Sepultura have done some interesting cover versions like Bauhaus, Prodigy, Public Enemy. What's been your favourite, and what ones would you still like to do?
Well, Stuart, to answer your question there, mate. Do you like my change up in voice just to make it a little interesting?
It was like James Bond was in the room.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge to do covers. I like to make them sepulturize these types of covers that we do, give it that Sepultura flavor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I like to do songs that aren't the same style of music that we do, or at least in the metal world. I think that's
absolutely, yeah,
a lot of fun to do and much more of a challenge.
But also, I sorry to cut across you there. Do you know what I really like? I really like the idea of taking a song that's, new wave, pop, whatever,
right,
and dragging it across into our genre and going, it's ours now.
Oh yeah, I think it's a fun challenge because there's a lot of music that I admire that isn't metal, of course, and a lot of different genres of music that are inspiring. And so I just don't want people to think, which they do. A lot of people either, in general, like, oh, you either like metal or you don't, or you don't, or you either like metal or you can't like hip hop and you can't like this, which is ridiculous. But for me, the favorite cover song that we've done would be Massive Attack. I'm a huge fan of Massive Attack. I always have been. And it was great to be able to bring up that as a group to cover and have everyone into it as far as in the band. So we did that cover, and what was really cool is that we had no expectations from I had no expectations that it would ever be used for anything, or it was just like a lot of fun to do. And it's on an album that we did called Revolute songs. So we did a bunch of covers, like you were saying, Public Enemy. But the Massive Attack cover was a lot of fun. And years later, people started writing something online about, oh man, it's a show that with Kevin Bacon, The Following, I think it's called.
Oh, right,
I had never seen it. And they were telling me, like, oh, man, there's a Sepultura song that's on. I was like, get out of here. And so I went to listen. It was the Massive Attack cover that we did. And a lot of people were asking, who's doing this song? And they had no idea it was us. And so that was a pretty cool feeling, knowing that it was used years later. People had no idea who was doing it. And to realize, they were like, wow, I didn't realize that Sepultura are capable of doing such a diverse cover, so it was a lot of fun to do that.
That was awesome, man. And Stuart also says that he loved the Bauhaus cover as well. Great version.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of these versions, it's like I think a lot of hardcore fans would really know these. I would love for people more people to be able to hear these covers. But it's always fun to do them, especially, like I said, to do groups that people wouldn't expect us to do.
Dude, you're talking to a man who posted a video with Suzanne Vega in it last week, and you should see what the Suzanne Vega fans thought of our version. I think it woke a few of them up.
Oh, nice. Well, hopefully there's some positive.
Oh man, do you know what? Do you know what? It was universally positive, but those
that's great.
But those that didn't like it really didn't like it. But that's cool. Right, we've got a question from Stephen Smith. Stephen says, how long or how many years did it take for you to truly settle into Sepultura and to think of yourself that as being at home in the lineup?
It's a good question.
It is.
I've heard this question asked to Roger Daltrey of The Who, and it took him some time. I was like, I had no idea. It definitely, I would have to say, probably on Nation, the second album, because I was there for the recording process of everything, and from the writing process from the very beginning. With Against, I wasn't there for the writing process at the very beginning, and a little bit of the recording process I missed. So I felt completely, because I was able to really give my input at the very beginning of a song, in the writing process, and so I felt 100% with that, and really relaxed after, because we had already done a tour around the world. We had done tons of interviews. We had already recorded, so it was starting fresh. So I believe on the Nation album was when I felt definitely 100% in the band.
Cool. Right. Okay. Thank you. Well, Stephen has got another question for you. When Derrick is on tour in the UK, does he ever eat British food or go to pubs or restaurants? And if so, what does he think?
Oh. You want to hear the truth?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, man. No one loves British food. I was talking to Jimmy DeGrasso last night, and he said, "Do you know what I really miss about London?" I was like, "No," and he said, "Indian curry," and I was like, "Yeah, it's not fucking English food, is it? It's Indian curry."
Yeah. He's got a good point. Yeah. No, I think there's great food in the UK. I think it's gotten better.
Yes.
It's been advancing. It's been evolving.
Yeah.
In many, many ways. So I'm not going to be negative about it. I'm always discovering new places. I have a plant-based lifestyle, so I'm always searching out new places. I don't have any at the top of my head names of places, but it's always a surprise to come to the UK and to see the evolution that's taking place. So we'll definitely do an episode on Highway to Health there in the UK, showing
awesome
the changes and what's been happening, because I know there's a lot of negativity that the UK get for food.
Oh yeah. When we're making things called spotted dicks, so I mean it's our own fault, really, isn't it? We don't.
That name doesn't help.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, as well, is if you've ever seen Spotted Dick, you know where it got you know where it got its fucking name from.
Oh, jeez. So appealing and appetizing, it sounds.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Let's move on.
Okay.
Okay. We've got Nick Russell. Nick Russell says,
Hello, Nick.
Hello, Nick. Do you ever? Hello. I don't know why I'm doing the accent. Jesus. Do you ever? It's like it's welcome. It's Derrick Green, the famous vegan singer with Sepultura and man of 1,000 voices. Here we go. Nick Russell. Do you ever get annoyed that the band haven't got the fair recognition they deserve for producing great albums from Rawback onwards compared with their peers? Dante, Alex and Kairos are an amazing 3-album run that many would struggle to match, along with the excellent Quadra as well. So he's obviously a big fan, but wants to know if you get annoyed that the band don't get their fair recognition that they deserve for producing such great albums.
Goddamn right, I get annoyed. Next question. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Oh, yeah, I do. It can be annoying, but, not everybody's going to like everything that you do. I already knew that from the first day I started music, and it didn't bother me. It was just a realization of humanity. Not everybody's going to like everything that you do, and I'm okay with that. And I think everybody should be okay. Everybody's supposed to like everything that you do anyway. So everybody has their own taste. What's important is to really stick to what you believe. That's something we've always done. We've always stuck to how we're feeling and how it makes us feel. That's more realistic than to think about things that you can't really change. And you definitely need to just, for us, we just always stay focused and been happy with what we've been able to create. And we've been able to move forward with those creations. Every one of those albums have such a big meaning to us. And there's always room for people to discover these albums still. People are consistently rediscovering music. Myself, I'm a big fan of music, and there's a lot of things that I never listened to, and I'm going back and listening to my first time that have probably been out for years. And I didn't know about it, and then it's like, and now this is my favorite thing. So this can happen, and it does happen. So yeah, it's okay. I'm okay with it.
Cool, man, cool. Well, Nick has another question, which is, what are your influences, and is there anyone you are listening to at the moment that you would recommend?
All right. Well, then, let's get on with it. Let's see. My biggest influences are people who are very positive, people that have a very strong, positive mental attitude. Whatever it is that they're doing, I like to be around those type of people. I'm always influenced, and they actually draw my ear. Whatever it is, not only musicians, but artists or people that are doing things that are extraordinary, and they're very good at doing that, or whatever it is that they possibly are doing. But I like to be around those type of people with this positive energy. Stay away from negative people because they're consistently draining you all the time.
Negative people never get anything done. Positive people get things done. No one's. There's never ever been a world leader who has been negative. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
There's no world leader ever went, this country of ours, it's all right, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind living somewhere else. It's okay.
Oh yeah, right.
But it is. You're so right. Negative people are like a cancer that you need to cut out of your life.
Absolutely. I stay far away, and I like to be around people who are very mindful. People who are very caring. People who are very empathetic with the world around them. This is something that's very important, I feel. And it opens so many doors, and it changes so many things around us to a better place when you have very thoughtful, mindful, and empathetic people. And if you add positivity on top of that, these are the biggest influences for me. People who are able to not only by doing these acts, by living their life this way, So, I look up to people that are able to do those things, and I can learn from them, So those type of people are always a big influence. They could either be a musician, an architect, a designer, a chef. For me, it's such a wide variety, but this, those are the pillars that are admirable to me.
That's a really good answer. I was asked that question recently, and I found it really tough to answer. And I think I ended up going with sports people who I find incredibly inspiring. Also, because I do stand up as well. When I started doing stand up, I was already a fan of boxing, but I kind of really got into boxing just purely from that. There is no team, there is only me.
Oh yeah, boxing. I'm a huge fan of sports.
Oh, hang on, fucking hell, of course, Ali. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
We never even got to talk about that.
I know, it's like,
shit.
Man, I mean,
that
huge,
was...
I mean, it played such a big part in my life, sports, and I never imagined that they would. But I think the importance of it is really not looked at all the time and passed up.
Oh man, sport is life. There is not a lesson that you cannot learn through sport that will not help you through life.
I agree with that.
You know, it's and this is what, ultimately, I know there's all these tales of non-competitive sport in schools and things like that, and it's like, well, guess what? Those same kids are going to leave school, go to a job interview, and find out that not everyone gets a fucking job.
Right.
But sport, man. I mean, so look, let's do the Ali thing, because I read those lyrics. I mean, I'm huge. I said, the album so far is at number 1 in my album of the year list. I got, went out, got the CD, the lot, poured over the lyrics, just like the old days. I've found it a really inspiring listen, man. Honestly, it's truly the most inspiring metal album I have heard in a long, long time. And the song Ali, being a huge boxing fan myself as well, I was just like, oh man, this just gets better. This is like
really cool.
Sorry, go for it.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It was really a cool idea that Andreas brought up about, it was really funny because it was just like, hey, why don't we do about Ali, like a song about Ali? And I was like, I could definitely get my head around that. And it was like, for sure. I was like, what are, the aspects? He was like, okay, let's look at his life, from the very beginning to the end. He was a phenomenal person, not only for his boxing, and so then doing a lot more research of what I knew so much about him, but I wanted to do a lot more research. It was just really great to go in depth, just watching him on TV and doing his interviews and the impact that he had on my parents as well. My father was a huge fan, and he had such an impact on not only the Black community in America, but I realized, it was all over the world, internationally. As I got older and started traveling and realizing, it's like, man, Ali is just, he spoke to so many people, and it wasn't only his fighting, it was just his being, so it was this commendable person that we wanted to write about. And I took it from the phase of him as being young, angry, wanting to destroy every opponent in front of him, and being able to do that, to become the world champion. Then, like, at the peak of his career, to leave all that and then possibly go to jail for his beliefs. I don't know. I mean, there's not many people that would do that. It's literally the peak of his career. It was unbelievable timing, but he was really like, okay, I'm going to put that aside, and what I stand for is much more important. And it was so admirable, to see this. And then even to the phase of the Olympics and him with the torch shaking, from his disease, being able to get to that point, it's just incredible. It's still being so inspirational, it's just unbelievable life.
Yeah, the thing is, he just transcends sport. The name.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The name Muhammad Ali. Well, he's the greatest ever sports player. He was voted. There was a when the millennium was going, there was always these fucking what's been the best of the millennium, and he was voted the greatest sports person of the millennium. But he'll probably be the greatest sports person of all time forever.
Yeah,
because
it's
I don't,
pretty much that way
I
for
don't,
me.
I don't see,
I can't.
I don't see anyone achieving anywhere near what he achieved.
I know, it was like mind blowing.
Truly, truly. Well, let's get back to the
situation that he was in. You know?
Oh well, I mean, he faced, obviously he faced depression, he faced racism, he refused to go to war. I mean, everyone looks back now and goes, "Oh, the great Muhammad Ali," and you think, yeah, the world didn't always see him like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's so admirable. Despite all the shit that he was getting, he remained positive. Amongst all that, it's just like commendable.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, look, let's get back to these questions. And funnily enough, here's a classic on the back of all of that. What's your favourite song to sing live? Great question, Carl. Great question.
The perfect question. God. Well, we talked about this a little bit, but I don't know. It depends on the day. It depends on the mood. It's hard to say. It's been a while since we played live, so I can't really say what. But I guess it would have to be Isolation now.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the last things I remember playing live from the new album, that it just felt so good to play that live. We played at Rock in Rio, and that was mind-blowing for the first time we played that song. So it still gives me goosebumps thinking about it. And then we also played it live for a special show we did for Hellfest, like an introduction to the festival, just for reporters and a few fans. We did a special show, so that was the last time playing that song live, and it was a good feeling. My favorite.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, the other question is, I'm not going to read the whole of the question, but basically, it would appear this guy had tickets for your show in June. I mean, at the moment, any idea what's happening as regards rescheduling? I mean, I know I've spoken to a lot of people recently, and nobody knows when to reschedule anything for.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're at, because, I mean, when you think about it, it hasn't been that long. It may seem like a long time that all this has happened, but it's still relatively early. Like you're saying, there's no vaccine, so that has a huge implication on being able to play live. 2021 is the only time frame or reference I can think of to be fair that it will be happening. So we have to reschedule all this stuff for next year and see how that goes.
We're saying exactly the same, mid to late 2021. Fingers crossed. Okay, well, there's your answer, Carl. Right, 2 questions from Mark Pensome, and then I can let you go. First up, Mark Pensome says, love the new album. Are you playing much guitar, and did you contribute on the riff front at all, or were you more focused on the lyrics?
I was always focused on the lyrics. I haven't played guitar in Sepultura for quite some time.
Right.
I think the last introduction of me giving ideas or things happened with Roarback. And then after that, I started to really focus on vocals. So it was such a great process this time because we had time to do a lot of things. So the preparation, I was saying, is super important, but it was great to have that amount of time to put lyrics and everything together. So it's really challenging. I was never a guitar player like I'm a guitarist. I was always a vocalist. I played guitar because I needed to. I had to for survival of even writing ideas that I wanted to do. So I don't know. I think it's important to be able to be into your instrument that you're doing. I'm really into vocals. I think there's so much more I can do with my vocals. And so I want to stay focused with that. I can play guitar. But I'm not really playing it. I'm not like a player. Like Andreas is a player. He is an artist that plays guitar.
Yeah,
it's a craft where he's practicing.
He's playing it, and you're getting away with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to be the guy just getting away with it just for, if I'm going to play, I want to play.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
If I want to sing, I want to really sing. So
we got a little bit of studio voice in there, didn't we? We got a little bit of the singing voice nearly came through there, didn't it?
It almost did.
Oh, fuck me! There it is. Do you know what? By the way, I've totally forgotten. We played with you at Hammerfest in Wales.
Nice.
I think
wow, I love Wales.
Yeah, that was about 18 months ago. It was the weird one. It was in the middle of a holiday village. So it was in the middle of all caravans and shit like that. But anyway, look, here is your final question. Mark says, right. Is there a song on Quadra that you're particularly pleased with your performance on?
I'm particularly pleased with. Okay, is there one? Yes. Particularly pleased about Agony of Defeat.
Ooh, right.
Yeah, that was a really challenging song because I loved it from the first time I was hearing it, and I felt it was just such a dramatic song.
Yeah.
And the topic of it was very dramatic, and I just wanted, in my head I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to sing this because it's so intense, but in the end it was great getting to the studio and being able to, where it wasn't what I was thinking would be like the hardest song, it ended up being very joyful to sing that and to do it and to have it completed. I was just very happy.
Do you know what? I agree. I know exactly what you've gone through there. You've been kind of dreading doing a song, and then when you've got into it, you've actually started enjoying it and actually surprised yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. That feeling, it's wonderful.
Oh, man, isn't it?
What was I thinking about? Why was I beating myself up about nothing?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's always the stuff that I just think I'm going to smash out of the park and is dead simple. And then however many hours later, I'm going, why do we have to fucking do this song?
Yeah, that's the cursor. When you're like, oh, this one's an easy one. This one shouldn't be hard.
Yeah,
that's when always ends up being the hardest.
Yes, and someone in the studio somewhere says this one's actually more complicated than you first realise, and you think, yeah, fuck, I know. And finally, we've got a message from Scott Bamford that says, "Damn, I missed the deadline. Just as well, the other patrons stepped up with some excellent questions." So that was Scott Bamford. He says hello. That's about it, really.
Awesome. Hello there. Hello, Scott.
I've got a chat with Andreas next week, and I'll put the podcast together, and let's like I said, if however you want to do it, I'll ping you it all. If you want to sling it out on a Wednesday, that'd be really cool.
Let us know.
Yeah, and we'll do it across all our socials. I'll get it across the band socials as well, and we'll try and hijack your Wednesday.
Good luck.
Oh, Derrick, man, it's been an absolute blast. I look forward to playing I look forward to playing a show with you in some far-flung field in the middle of fucking nowhere sometime soon.
Right on, Howard. I can't wait.
Cool, man. It'll be good fun. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks again, man.
Take care. Absolute pleasure. Have a great day, man.
All right. You too.
Take care. Bye. Bye-bye. I mean, if that is not the most fun that you can have doing a podcast. And there you go. I've left that little bit on the end there because that is genuinely how I felt having done the interview and how I still feel listening back to it. Just an absolute blast. A lovely guy and just a delight to chat with, really. We were all over the map talking about all sorts of stuff. Well, you were listening, you heard the interview. And sometimes interviews go like that. It just opens up as a conversation and you're able to just get to places that maybe you don't really get to with all of your guests. I'm making a bit of a mess of this, but you heard the full interview, you heard the questions. I mean, what a lovely guy, what a great album. I mean, I've really, really enjoyed doing these. I'm really excited about you guys hearing it. I'm excited about you hearing the one with Andreas in a couple of weeks and the one with Jens a couple of weeks after that. So it's all really exciting. Feel free to join the podcast. Come and join me on the podcast on Patreon. I'm on Podbean. You can find me on Twitter, Talking Bollocks. You can find us on Facebook, Talking Bollocks. There's a Talking Bollocks YouTube channel. I'm pretty much everywhere with this here podcast. And if you like thrash metal, then everyone has been on. Well, not everybody, but, you get the gist. So, thank you very much for listening. I look forward to speaking to you all again soon. Wherever you are in the world, whatever's going on with you and however things are affecting you at the moment, take care, be safe, and I'll speak to you soon.